Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back to Straight Facts. It is Friday. Of course, that means we've got man like Staffy. We've got Lawless here, and there's so much to talk about. Julián Álvarez, could he go to Chelsea this summer? They will be making an official approach to the player in the days to come. This has been confirmed by one of the leading Argentinian journalists who broke the news of him joining City a few years ago. We're going to be taking a look at Arsenal's pursuit of Isak, and they have a plan, and it's all to do with this court case that starts Monday. We are looking at the court case, and could Man City's legal action against the Premier League eventually lead to the killing of the EPL, or at the very least, a number of football clubs going out of business? We're going to be talking about that a little later on the show. But to start with, we've got to start with this breaking news. It's now been revealed by a number of journalists today, Staffy, that Gareth Southgate is the number one target of Ineos, and they would like him to become the new manager of Manchester United.
I hate Lawless, man. His facial reactions are just actually pissing me off. Just turn off your camera, man. Just turn off your camera. Listen, first of all, big up to everyone here. Make sure you guys smash a like on the video. Terry, I'm sorry, bro. I'm not believing it until I see it's actually more concrete, because some of the sources, listen, I don't know what sources you have. I know you have quite the connects, but some of the sources I'm hearing about, they're not really that reliable. Miguel Delaney and them, I don't know how reliable these people are. You know, I refuse to believe that we're gonna get him. I refuse to believe, and I've been on this whole time. I refuse to believe that someone like Omar Barada, who came from a City group, was watching Southgate football and he said, you know what, that's the guy. You know, there's no way. There's no way. I refuse to believe that Jason Wilcox, who's sitting there and critiquing the way Ten Hag plays football, and he is like, you know who's better than you, Ten Hag? Southgate's better than you. I just refuse to believe it. I feel like it's just media talk. I feel it's just because we got Ineos and Sir Jim. If it wasn't a British billionaire, I don't think we would have been linked with them. If we had the Qataris take over as an example, I don't think we would have ever had these rumors going around. I could be wrong, but I refuse to believe it, man. I'm gonna continue to live my life like that until we find out if Ten Hag is gonna stay or we get another manager. Until then, I'm just really not entertaining it. There's no way.
I hear you. Let me throw this to Lawless. Is that Staffy being realistic, or is that a bit of copium there?
I think there is copium. There is some copium.
Even I could have told you that.
Yeah, there's massive copium there, and you know, I don't understand. I don't blame it. For me, I want to see it happen because I think it'll be hilarious to see the reaction from the Man United fans.
It's gonna be hilarious when they do Straight Facts alone on Fridays, because I won't be here. You think I'll be here?
It'll be good. But the thing is, are Man United fans overreacting? You know what I mean? I'm seeing the super chat there just said, you know, it's Ineos and Southgate out and all of that. Like, look, his football is been dead for England, right? You know, we may talk about the England squad later. I'm thinking maybe he might play a little bit more attacking with the lineup we've seen. But is there not any part of you just goes, you know what? If it happened, you've got no control over the manager. If he's there, give it a chance. Like, we can look at positives of Southgate. Listen, I've said if he don't win the Euros, then he needs to be sacked. I think England needs to go in a different direction. But either way, there's some positives, you know, and how he's worked with this young squad, and you know what I mean, the players seem to like him. You know, he's done quite well with England overall. Like, I think he should have got over the line, but big tournaments, big moments. Listen, he wouldn't be on my first choice for my club.
I get what
I'm
just saying.
Let me ask you something, Terry. Let me ask you
something. Go on.
Lotus, I don't know if you know this or not. Just a little quiz for you. When's the last time you think Southgate has managed a club?
Wasn't it Middlesbrough like 15 years ago or something, 10 years ago?
Exactly. 2009, Middlesbrough, and he got him relegated. Yeah. You're telling me your credentials as a club manager is that you managed 15 years ago. Lawless, I don't know what you do in life. I don't know what your job is. But I'm pretty sure if you didn't update your resume for 15 years, the likelihood of your resume getting accepted for a job today is slim to none. When you're telling me the last time you managed a club was Middlesbrough and you got them relegated 15 years ago, I'm sorry to sit here and say this is not a good credential. Even when he say he's done well for England, he has not won anything for England. And he's had arguably one of the best generations in England to win something with. Not to mention that he had a Euros in his backyard where he lost the final to an Italy team that was not even good enough to make the World Cup about a year later. So I'm sorry to sit here and think that this guy's not good enough. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me.
Just saying, you don't give it a chance.
So
No,
yeah,
I'm not giving it a chance. No, I'm not.
So when you say you're not giving it a chance, what does that mean? Break that down for me.
Oh my God, are you trying to get me to say, "Oh, so get it out" if he comes in?
No. I'm not asking that. I want to. When you say you're not supporting it, I need to understand. That's you could class that as a bit of a not buzzwords, but a buzz phrase. I'm not backing it. What does that mean? Not backing it?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't believe in Ineos now because Ineos right now they're on a free trial when it comes to me. I believe in everyone gets a fair chance to prove themselves. Did I want Ineos originally? No, I didn't. But they're the ones that bought the shares from the club, and they have all these plans. And they came in and said, and I quote some of the stuff that they said, that they're trying to get the best in class in every department. They're trying to get United to be the best club in the world again. These are things that you said. So when you say these things to me, I have to hold you accountable to that. If I say, "Hey guys, I'm gonna take you out to dinner. I'm gonna take you to the best steakhouse in New York," and you're like, "Bet, safe." Staffy said this to us. And then I take you to some cheap Chinese shop. You're gonna be like, "What the hell is that?" You promise us something and you give us something else. Then you're gonna lose trust in me. You're gonna be like, "Next time we're going out for dinner, we're not hitting up Staffy anymore because his plans are bullshit." That's the same way I'm looking at Ineos. You cannot tell me I'm getting you the best in class and you go get me a club manager that no one wants. No one I'm pretty sure if you ask all 20 Premier League teams, all 19 Premier Leagues outside of United, no one will tell you that Southgate is on their top 3 list at all. So by that happening, I would automatically lose trust in
Okay, so I understand that. And of the Maradon here says, "Are you slow, Terry?" He doesn't believe what's so hard to understand. But that's just, again, saying I don't believe. Again, it's Maradon, and that's why we call you Maradon the moron, because you're a surface level person. It's surface level to say I don't believe. Asking someone to expand on that, what they don't believe in, how will that change their reaction towards other elements of change at the club? How much patience would somebody have? All of these things then come. I'm trying to understand. It's called a conversation. If we just had a basic surface level conversation, an hour and a half podcast would be finished in about 15 minutes because it would be very closed answers, very quick, short answers with no challenge. We have to create an understanding. But obviously, Maradon the moron doesn't get that. Maradon the moron likes things to be short and concise and very ambiguous. That way, he can never be cornered on an opinion, and that's what weak people do. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Everybody knows I don't want Southgate. Like, I don't. He's not anywhere near the top choice that I have. I understand Man United fans that will say should have kept Ten Hag, but already had people in the comments say, "Terry, this is what you get for wanting Ten Hag sacked. You were really going to back this Southgate because I ain't." Again, I don't know what backing someone means. Does it mean you don't celebrate when? Like, I really want to understand. Does it mean you don't celebrate when we win? Does it mean when we do some good things, you don't give him credit, but only criticize the bad stuff? Like, I'm not having a go at you. I'm trying to understand these days what not backing somebody means. I'm not backing it on a personal level, but I will back it objectively. So, and I think there's a difference between how I feel about it and being objective. And the reason that I say that is because we don't know the state of Man United. We all have a theory of how bad we are internally right now. Some of us will say absolutely horrendous. Some think it's not too bad. Maybe, just maybe, the club feel they need someone that can do what Southgate has done a good job of doing at England, and that's rebuilding a nation that was broken on a footballing level. And he has been integral in helping to fix England from the youth levels right through to the under 21s and to the first team. I think Southgate has got us to a point where a few years ago now he should have moved on and a better manager come in. There is no doubt about it. So the one area where I'm playing devil's advocate here, for people to understand that this isn't my full opinion, it's playing devil's advocate. That means I'm giving a suggestion that maybe they feel they need someone that they trust and that they know, who has good communication, who does have a very good track record of helping to fix a really huge institution that's broken. Maybe they feel that step is needed before going to a manager who is classed in the colloquial term as a win now guy. And as I say, I'm very skeptical of it, the same as you, Staffy. The only thing I'm not going to do is allow it in the first instance to damage trust that I have in Ineos or to not back this rebuild. And when I say back, that doesn't mean agree with every little bit. Me backing it isn't agreeing with everything they do on a subjective personal level, but it's about being objective and waiting to see the fruits of that labor. And the reason I say that is because they're saying 4 years' time we have a new manager and we've just won the Premier League. And then what starts to happen is the documentaries and the programs come out, and it turns out that the club was absolutely rotten to the core, and Southgate played an integral part of building the club up. We then moved on to somebody better, and now we're winning again. I would then look back as someone that was angry and going mad at the beginning as, I really shouldn't have done that. I maybe should have. Do you get where I'm coming from? So there's a part of me that totally wants to say and do what Staffy has just said, because that's how I feel towards Southgate. There is another part of me, though, that feels just because I don't understand it doesn't mean I should be angry at it. I'm going to give it some time, because I've been asking for these football decision makers to come in. We've had bankers making these decisions before, and they've ruined the club. I feel a little bit hypocritical to lose my shit at the first big decision that the football decision makers make. I almost want to let it cook before I go crazy, if that makes sense. I don't know.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And listen, I understand if you feel like that, but listen, I'm very strong opinionated. This is just how I've always been. And I feel like I have a level of understanding of the game where I can look at a manager, and I understand everything that you explained around the club, but I'm talking right now, at least on the pitch. I believe that I have a good enough understanding of what this manager has done for 8 years in England. I think he's been there for 8 years, where I can look at him and I look at what we are as a club and the players that we have and where we're trying to be, and look at this guy and I say, no, there's nothing that he can offer me that will improve me on the pitch. All the other stuff is too hypothetical for me. It's too what if. I'm holding, as I said, I'm holding Ineos by the standard that they came out and said that we're gonna have the club at, which is hiring the best in class. I don't expect him to go get me the best manager in the world in Pep.
But they also said
feasible and it's not attainable.
But to call you out on that is, yes, they said they want us to get us to be back to being the best in the world.
They said,
but they also said that it's going to take a lot of time and patience. So this is the problem with those quotes. What they didn't say is we're going to be back to our best next year and buy all the best players and hire the best available manager in the world.
I agree.
So that's why I think, and I agree with you. It is if buts and maybes, but it's if buts and maybes from both sides. The difference is I'm just going to stay calm until it fails, essentially, where you're going to be angry or frustrated until you're proven wrong.
I'll just be checked out, Terry. That's the thing. And a lot of fans will be checked out. I hear what you're saying. And I don't think that success was ever going to be instant. I never said that. And I would be delusional to say that. However, when I'm looking at the market and I see that the managers are out there, is there any manager that I really, really, really personally want? No. But I know there is better options than Southgate. The Zerbi and Tuchel alone are better options than him. Are these people that I strongly back? No, because I don't want the Zerbi for certain reasons. I like things about him, but there's a reason why I don't want him. And I like things about Tuchel, but there's a reason why I don't want him. But at the end of the day, I will still take these two over Southgate, because as football managers and as coaches, they are miles ahead of this guy.
But again, if Southgate's the only one willing to work within this structure, and they're not, because that's
a different conversation, Lawless.
But that's what I'm saying. But when we say available, it's available with the parameters that Manchester United are setting for the person for the job. So really, they're not available because they don't fit the criteria.
Yeah, but you don't know that, Lawless. Neither do I. If that is the condition, if they come out and say, basically, we hired, obviously no football club announces that when they sign someone. But if rumors comes out or leaks come out that no one wanted to take on the job with these current rules, I should say, that Ineos set for the new manager, or just like the circumstances of the job, and Southgate was the only one accepted it, I'll be like, okay, I get it, because there was no one else that wanted it. But that's a very, very, very slim chance that even happens.
No, but we're just going by
Tuchel's been working for United for a minute now. Sorry, say that again.
No, I'm just saying we're just going by the facts of the issues that they've had with previous clubs.
But I think that's the thing, though, Staffy. I understand the checking out thing. I get it. The reason why I disagree with doing that, and I say that you should be, as my view is that United fans, even if you're not happy, be objectively supportive and be as encouraging as possible, because we don't know what we don't know. Man United fans, we didn't like the Glazers ever. But it took a long time for us to completely and utterly not trust what the new board after Sir Alex Ferguson left were doing. And how I remember that is when LVG and Jose were announced as managers, there wasn't people checking out. The reason why people are checking out now is there's PTSD and there's a lot of sort of exhaustion from being poor for so long, having our hopes lifted as an example. I feel like what you said earlier is right. I think it's one of those things where we've got to wait and see. We don't know why Southgate's going to be. Is he genuinely the number one candidate, or is he the best we could get under this new structure that over the course of time could end up yielding amazing results for us? I feel like Man United fans, you're never going to get everything you want. And I feel like if we all just start checking out as football fans, the second that we don't get something we want, there's a problem. And it's interesting because I saw a really good thread the other day, and I wish I saved it and had the screenshots ready. And it was from somebody talking about Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund fans. And it really resonated with me. I'm someone that sort of turned my back financially on Man United in my own personal attempt to try and get rid of the Glazers. And I tried encouraging others to do it, and it never took off. Fair play to everybody. But it spoke about how what they do in Germany is they will push back and argue and fight against decisions their board and directors make. Good, bad, or indifferent. But they will support the team wholeheartedly, full-bloodedly, every single game. And I'll find you the thread and share it with you because it was eye-opening to me. And I feel like we as Man United fans could learn something from that, where I don't like this decision, but I am going to be up for it. Come on, boys, go and win the game. I feel like if we all just checked out every time a decision goes at the club we don't like, United would end up with no fans. And that's no good either, is it? Like, that isn't going to help us. And I sometimes feel we've got to look at what we say and do and take it to the extremity to see how bad it could get. And I just don't believe in... Listen, I agree with what you've said about Southgate, but I personally can't check out. But you're going to say something, Lawless. Go on, mate.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to... A certain little conspiracy theory, an alternate theory that I think could be happening
in the multiverse. Now, this is a multiverse theory,
right? Is that Ineos know that there's a big sort of anti-Ten Hag sort of mindset among the fans?
I know you said already. Go on, sorry.
Right?
Sorry, go on.
So knowing this, but feeling like they, want to keep him because of the options out there. They can't really see anyone that's really out there. Obviously, he's just won the trophy. They've sort of leaked this Southgate story to, get the fans a little bit more riled up to the point of when they do keep Ten Hag, there's a relief that at least we didn't get Southgate. Do you know what I mean? And then it gets that positivity over there. That's what I'm thinking could be the case.
You need to get off Netflix. You need to get off Netflix.
Wouldn't it make sense though? Would it not make sense? Like if you're Ineos, like what makes more sense to you as a fan? Ineos going, right, we're going to sack Ten Hag and bring in Southgate, or Ineos going, right, let's leak this Southgate story so fans are relieved when we keep Ten Hag. What makes more sense?
Lawless, it sounds like I thought Ineos hired footballing people. The way you're describing them, it looks like they hired Hollywood directors. Because that's just what it sounds like, a big movie that we're living in. Lawless, I'm sorry again. I'm going to say this again. I'm sorry if you guys want me to believe that after we hired all these football decision makers from Ineos, from City, from Southampton, from all these places that we approach these guys, that none of them can sit there and have a network of scouts that have managers on their lists on who is the next big manager to replace Pep, to replace Klopp, to replace Ancelotti, this, and that. There's this manager in this country, this manager in the championship. If Chelsea can go and hire a manager from the championship because they think he will do good in the Premier League, if Arsenal can go years ago and hire Arteta because they think he's going to be a good coach in the Premier League, if all these clubs have scouting networks for players and managers, and you're telling me there's no one out there that is better than Ten Hag, so let's just put a story out there that we're gonna get a Southgate. So when we don't get him, everyone's like, "That was a close one."
No,
I'm sorry, bro. I'm not believing that. I'm not believing that.
Yeah. I do get what you're saying. I also look, whatever you say, like certain people just want you to be. I love this. There's all that gaslighting Terry did about the backroom team for first choice Southgate, but it isn't again. But what you're doing, Maradon, is all surface level. And as a Man United fan, acting like a rival right now is crazy to me. I've already said these people that we have running the club, on paper, and with their CVs and what they've done in the past, know what they're doing more so than the bankers and the accountants that we had. I'm going to give it time to see the fruits of the labor before I do what you've just done, Maradon, and bent over and opened your ass crack to the world. Because then if it starts going well, Maradon, you're the one who's going to look silly. I'm not stating that everything is going to be perfect from the beginning. I'm not stating that everything is going to go swimmingly from day one and they're not going to make mistakes. All I'm stating is I'm not showing my backside at the first sign of trouble, because things in rebuilds often get worse before they get better. And this is typical through life. And Man United fans have got to wake. The problem is with a lot of Man United fans is that they have been deluded for 10 years that just sacking a manager and bringing in somebody, quote unquote, better was going to fix us. And they still have that mindset of, well, this guy's not good enough. Well, have you looked at the situation we're in as a club? There's different managers for different scenarios and circumstances. And I am just going to give this time. And so far, there hasn't been an argument other than you're muddied to go against that. And at the end of the day, I do trust the backroom staff that are coming in. I do trust the names that are coming in to fix my club in the medium to long term. I never said it would be fixed within a season or two. So therefore, I'm not panicking at this point. And people are willing, feel free to make your predictions, where we'll finish and what's going to happen. And if you're right, I'll say, well done. If you're wrong, I'm sure you'll find a way of twisting it. It's as simple as that for me.
I need to challenge Staffy quick on that backroom staffing. I was dying to when he said this because
you just want to challenge me for the sake of challenging me. Go ahead.
No, because the thing is, I understand where you're coming from to a degree, because it's the similar argument I've made when people say, well, who do you want? And it's like, yeah, it's not my job. They should have all the money and resources, right? But you trust this backroom staff. If they go and hire some manager you've never heard of from the Belgian league, right? Never heard of him, manager like Belgian league, and he hires them. You're going to trust them then that they know what they're doing. They've done their scouting. They've got all of that. Then you're happy with that. But these same
I didn't
people,
say that though, Lawless.
No, but you said that there's all these managers. They've got these massive scouting networks, all these leagues. There's managers we don't know about, right? So that's what I'm saying. If they go and sign some manager you've never heard of, right? You're saying that you have trust that they have those resources available to go and do that. But if they decide with their resources,
yeah, Dan, you hit the nail on the head.
That Southgate or Ten Hag is the right choice, you don't trust it. So
no, hold on. So here's the thing. No, Lawless. But when I said that was an answer to you saying there's no better options out there than Southgate in a hypothetical world. And that was my answer to you. I didn't say that's what they should be doing anyways. Because by the way, I never said I trust them yet. I said I'm giving him a chance to do something where I'm like, you know what? You earned my trust. Because to me, trust is always earned. So that was an answer to.
So if you got Enzo, you would be cool with that. If it wasn't instead of Chelsea.
No, it's not that I would be cool with that. I would be like, okay, let me see how this goes. The only issue I have with the Southgate thing,
how it goes.
No, but I'll tell you what,
because you're talking about. That's why subjective.
No,
subjective opinion rather than objective.
No. Lawless talked about Southgate like he is the only option. I refuse to think that he is the only. No, yes, you did. You said what if he's the only option?
He said, mate. What if he's the only option available that wants the best available that wants to work in that structure?
And that's why I said I refuse to believe that. I refuse that there's only one manager in this globe
but that's and Staffy, you're entitled to your opinion, but that is you being subjective.
But what are the odds that only one manager in the world?
Okay, but if you let me finish, this is the thing here, Staffy. I don't disagree with your opinion on Southgate. That I agree with, but it's about being objective. Because I think Dan's hit the nail on the head. Because I believe there are multiple sections of Man United fans who, depending upon the manager we pick, will have the same reaction as you. Some will get behind Southgate, some won't. Some will get behind McKenna, some won't. He's not coming now, of course. Some will get behind De Zerbi. Some will go crazy if we get him. Man United fans, and this is the point, you will get this same reaction from multiple fans. There are people out there that think De Zerbi is absolute garbage. There are people that love him. And the problem is and I understand why, we have no faith in the people that run our club, generally speaking, because for 10 years, they've run it into the ground. But for me, the reason why I'm not having the same reaction I normally do is because we have new people running the club. I'm not going to be going crazy over the top if we get a manager I love. So this is the balance to it. If we get De Zerbi, who I like, I'm not going to go, we're balling next year, we're back. I'm going to be just as tempered and reserved as if we get Southgate, who I don't want. Because for me, I want to wait until I can see the wood for the trees before I really give an opinion. It's not about checking out. It's about being objective from the beginning and allowing the new ownership enough time to create something at the club. I get what you're saying, earning their trust. And I agree with you on that. But I don't believe as fans we have to check out, be frustrated and annoyed from day one. We don't need to put extra. We don't need to put extra toxicity, frustration, anger, and angst towards the team. We don't need to do that at this point.
I'm not adding anything. I just listen. At the end of the day, let's just
checking out. You're not adding positivity if you're checking out.
But checking out is not adding anything. It's just like I'm taking myself.
You're not adding. Yeah, but you're taking away.
Not adding positivity doesn't mean you're adding negativity
because you're subjectively upset.
It's not, but at the end of the day, let's just be very honest, though. Like, let's just, if we're being honest about the name itself, Southgate, as much as Lawless wants to say here, say that I'm not being that I'm being subjective, that I'm basically gonna give someone else a chance, it's not him. At the end of the day, this guy is a proven loser, anyways. Like, let's just be very honest with what it is. Because all this, I was just trying to be as objective as possible. The reason Southgate is an issue compared to everyone else, especially managers that we might know, he's a proven loser. Why would you bring me a proven loser on an international club level to make me think that this guy's going to take me anywhere? Like, it doesn't take. I don't have to be
subjectively. I completely agree with you. Objectively, I'm giving it time because we don't know everything, and that's the thing. We don't know what we don't know in this circumstance.
I know he's a loser. That's what I know.
Yeah, and I understand that.
He's a loser in football, like really, that you're looking at.
This is what I mean about all the managers that are available. There is a question mark and a loser question mark over the vast majority of them, which is why you could have this conversation with anyone. But look, viewers, I want to get your views. I want to get your opinions on this in the comments section below. Don here says, if Southgate wins the Euros, would you, man, be more? That's a great question. If he won the Euros this summer, Staffy, would your mind change?
You know, actually, I'm so happy that we got to this. Can we move on actually to the England team? Because I'm ready to give my prediction.
We're gonna do.
You're not winning the Euros.
Okay, but that isn't the question. Okay, but answer the question.
You're not winning the Euros.
That isn't. No. That's not answering the question. That is being obtuse. If we win the Euros, so we go against what you think and we win it, would you then change your mind about Southgate because he wouldn't be a loser anymore?
Terry, but like, it's like you asking me what happens if you win $1 million. I'm not going to win $1 million. You're not going to win the Euros.
Answer the question. You said he's a loser. If he isn't a loser anymore, would you change your mind?
Would I change my mind? I'm a
this
stubborn person,
is the problem with
so
subjective thinking, is that your pride gets in the way.
No, I was going to say I would probably say no because I'm a very stubborn person. And low-key, I would find a way to just make it sound like it's a fluke. I just know myself.
So I know, but if he did you said it's like impossible. There's no chance. If he did that,
but Lawless, it won't happen. Right. I'm telling you, it will not happen. I have
zero knockout football, my friend.
Brother, I will tell you, I could bet with you right now. There's no way you're winning this tournament. I'm telling you from now, you're not winning it. You'd be lucky to get past the quarterfinals, if I'm being honest with you.
Clip that.
Clip it. I have no problem with this English team. That Southgate selected this year compared to the last 3 tournaments is the worst out of the 3. You are not winning anything with this team.
Because Man United.
I want to do this. You know, when you get to predict the bracket, basically who qualifies.
Yeah, we'll be doing that next week's show.
I actually want to do that because I don't know how it would pan up to be if England get first or second. So I want to see their path. But
yeah, we'll be doing it on next. Yeah, we'll be doing that on next week's shows. Before the tournament begins, we'll be touching on that. We'll come back to that stuff a little bit later in the show. Viewers, make sure you hit the like button for us. Make sure you subscribe to the Football Terrace as well if you haven't done so already. We're going to come back to some transfer rumors soon. But obviously, boys, I haven't seen you both all week, and a lot of stuff has happened this week with City. They're suing the Premier League. There are a number of clubs backing them. Funnily enough, all the clubs that are facing financial difficulties or that want to do associated inflated sponsorship deals are kind of standing by them, but the majority still behind the Premier League. What's been your take on all this, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, the clubs that are back in Man City is not a surprise because they have a vested interest in that situation overcoming. Like, I honestly, Man City's movements is so hard to tell. Obviously, people have said, "Oh, it's just a strategy because they know they're guilty." It's a mad situation, but yeah, I feel like clubs like Villa and Newcastle, they're dying to spend. Man City have come out and basically kind of said, yeah, like we should have been able to spend. We should be able to inject this money, and it's not fair. So I don't understand how what grounds they have to sue in terms of like the Premier League have been found guilty for not letting clubs spend and having restrictive rules. They must pay out, or force them to change the rules or what. But yeah, it's been obviously my club. We ain't in any PSR situation, so we haven't really, from what I know, backed it. But yeah, Aston Villa, Newcastle. I'm kind of with, obviously, I've with City. I'm thinking that there needs to be less restriction, but in a more fair way, which we'll talk about in a bit. Do you know what I mean? Because you spoke before, Terry, and we're going to get into it about previous things that have happened with clubs, but we need to restructure rather than just this model. It don't work for me. So if Man City can shed some light and get some change for it, then I think that's a positive.
What did you make of it, Staffy? Do you think this is, some people are saying it's an admission of guilt, others have more of a view like Dan, which is very fair, that this is about allowing clubs to invest a little bit more money, maybe lose a little bit more money, but spend more in the pursuit of growth? How do you view this court case that starts Monday?
It's a bit of a weird one, because I was listening to people talk about it all week, and as you said, we haven't spoken since this all happened, and there's a lot of good points that have been made. People will say it's probably them admitting guilt. I kind of see where that's coming from. There was a graphic that came out the other day, a chart, sorry, I should say, and it was showing the percentage of growth of Premier League clubs commercially, I think something like that, in the last decade, I believe, and everyone averaged about a 250% growth between everyone else but City, and then you had City on like 1,000 something, 1,170, and I'm like, you're like 4 times more than the closest club to you, which was United at 300%. And to me, that just looked crazy. How did you have that much growth in the past 10 years, and then you're actually upset and saying you want to change the rule? And there's something about them being last year they were only 5% behind Real Madrid in terms of
their turnover is now only £5 million a year behind Real Madrid.
5 million, sorry, not 5%. So I'm looking at all this, I'm like, you should probably be the last club to complain, because you've had the best growth sprout in the last decade, and you're trying to change your rules. I can't look at it and be like, objectively, they need to change the rules because they feel like the rules are restricting them from being a global club and being commercially more strong and all that stuff, because they've definitely had enough growth.
Let me ask you this question, Staffy. Their claim is, Staffy, let me ask you as a question. Their claim is that these rules are stopping them from being the richest club in the world and and one of the best teams in the world. Have these restrictions stopped City from becoming one of the wealthiest teams in the world and becoming the best team in the world?
No way, because if you check this rate, if they go by this rate, give it another decade, they'll be miles ahead of everyone. You don't even have to wait for a decade. By the rates that they've been showing their growth for the past 10 years, if they continue this for another 3 to 5 years, they will indefinitely be the best club in the richest club in the world. So there's no way you looked at your trajectory and they said, you know what, we need to change the rules because by this trajectory, we'll never be the richest club in the world. That makes zero sense. There's no fucking way. I'm looking at it, and it has to do something to do with their charges. I will be very honest with you, because I've been someone who spoke. I think I spoke the least about their charges. I didn't want to talk about it a lot. I thought it was jarring. I thought it was annoying. I was like, just let it be until they find them guilty or not. But when I'm really looking at it, they tried to put, I feel like this is basically what I'm going to try to wrap up this with. They're trying to do this underdog persona that they are, and that people are trying to fight them, where really you've been actually abusing the rules the most. And it just shows, because the numbers don't lie at the end of the day. When you look at your numbers, as I said, your trajectory shows that indefinitely you will be the richest club in the world. It's just no coincidence for me that you're suing the Premier League now to change these rules that go hand in hand with your issue with 115 charges when it comes to the sponsorship deals. That is the one thing that I'm looking at. I'm like, there's a correlation there, and that's why you put that. But that's just my opinion on it. It's so conspiracy, but it's my opinion.
I don't even think it's conspiracy. I asked, someone said to me that you tried to catch Staffy out. No, I didn't. I was asking almost a rhetorical question, really. But if these rules, so the ones in the last 3 years, and all the rules that have been in the past, if they haven't been breaking them, or they don't want to break them, even if they're stating that our associated party transactions will be legitimate and within market value, if all of that is true and you've grown by 1,100% in the last decade or so, I don't understand the complaint, because you've become the second richest team in the world, short by 5 million. They're probably going to surpass Real Madrid in the next 12 months. So you've become the richest team, the most successful in England in that time, and one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. So therefore, when I see the other clubs, the Villas and, you know, I think Everton fans we're just trying to catch up. But City have done it without cheating, right? So this idea these rules stop you from getting to the top is completely undone by the fact that City haven't cheated and they've got to the top within this rule structure. So that's the confusion for me. It's either City have cheated to get there, or you're all chatting shit that you can't make it to the top. It might take you a decade, but so what if it takes a decade? Some of our clubs that turn over what we turn over, it took 130 years to get to this point. A decade's nothing in comparison. So that's the element why I'm so excited about this court case, because I want to see it all come out. There's also the claims against they don't like the democratic process. That's the bit that's wound me up the most, actually. It was only yesterday the same clubs, the Evertons and the Forests and the Cities, who said basically the way the democratic 2/3 process works is a disgrace. That's what the claim says in court. Did the same thing to Wolves to keep VAR. They did it to Wolves. They all got away, and some of the cartel clubs, along with Man City and Chelsea, voted that it is okay for clubs to sell their assets to their sister companies. So again, it's like, oh, there's a red cartel and we don't stand with them until we agree on a rule and we all vote together. That's my issue with a lot of, there's so much, and this isn't just a City issue. This is all the clubs involved. There's an hypocrisy within this of, I don't like the voting system. Until the voting system works for you, then people like it. But the biggest problem I have with this, and again, every time I now see the clubs vote in favor of something, I'm just going to tweet tyranny of the majority. And if City that have said that in court, that they feel like they're suffering under tyranny because of the voting system, they should now abstain from any vote, surely, right? But the bit that I'm worried about the most is if they win. It's not City winning. So City fans think, you just want to destroy City. I actually don't want to see any club destroyed. And I want to bring something up that's really important, I believe. I saw this tweet from a Newcastle fan. And this Newcastle fan said here, I'm just timestamping this so we don't lose it in the stream, but he says, Newcastle have the wealthiest owners in the world in football. They do. Owners dying to plow in hundreds of millions, probably billions if we're being honest. Owners who have more money than every other Premier League club combined. But we have to sell a player for 20 million because if we don't, we're at risk of being financially unstable. I think he then goes on to say this is a joke. There's been City fans that have put out saying that City are fighting for the greater good. Newcastle qualified for the Champions League but couldn't invest and are now being forced to sell. Villa qualified for the Champions League. They may have to sell. And then Chelsea, Everton, Leicester, Forest all under pressure to sell this month. Chelsea actually are not. That was a misthing from Sky. And I understand this claim. But then it made me go back because I'm so annoyed at the media for not talking about this. Younger fans are probably not going to remember this because it's all 10, 15 plus years ago. And I don't know how old people were. I don't even think football news from the Premier League was shared around the world like it is now. So you might even be my age, but live in America or Australia and have no idea about this. But we have to be so careful about letting clubs spend whatever they want. And I want to show people a few things here. So back in February 2010, Pompey were the first Premier League club to go bankrupt and to go into administration. And this may shock some people to find this out, but they went into administration with £66 million worth of debt and taxes owed. 66 million, which in 2010, the TV deal money by them, by the way, was a fraction of what it is now. 66 million in 2010 was a lot of money. Wasn't the biggest, but it was a lot of money. Nowadays, it looks like a drop in the ocean. At the time this happened, they had one billionaire owner that came in a year prior, in the season prior, but he was dismissed and removed because he stole money from the fund to buy the club, even though he was a billionaire. A second billionaire came in, promising the world, promising to plow money in and fix the football club, but yet decided in the end, got a bit bored, and didn't want to pay the £66 million debt off. They went into administration. They have never recovered from this point. We saw Rangers, who had a debt of around 70 million in totality. Okay, this was a headline when Craig Wright, the Scottish billionaire who took over the club that he loves, billions of pounds in the bank, went out of business and went bankrupt for a 70 million pound debt. You had West Ham, okay, who had to be saved by Gold and Sullivan after 2 consecutive billionaires run the club into the ground, and for a debt of around 60 million, nearly went out of business. Leyton Orient, a much smaller football club, almost went out of business and out of existence after a billionaire bought them and run up debts only totaling in the millions, and then decided he didn't want to pay it anymore and pulled his money. Now, all of this was happening before, barring Leyton Orient's, before FFP and PSR existed. I don't believe the Premier League brought these rules in to scarper a city or a future city. They did it because if you do your history between 2005 and 2012, when they initiated these laws and these rules in the game, multiple situations like this happened in England and abroad, where very wealthy millionaires, multimillionaires or billionaires were buying clubs, and they weren't doing what Roman and the Sheikh have done. They were ruining football clubs. And on debts totaling tens of millions, these clubs, some did, and some nearly went out of business. Now, you fast forward to 2024, the money in the game now, the salaries in the game now, and the amount of money these billionaires are now promising to pump in. How the hell would a club survive a £500 million or £1 billion debt that these super rich owners could potentially generate? And for whatever reason, they get bored, they pass away, their families move on, their country gets sanctioned. If, for instance, those debts are leveled against these clubs, there are no millionaires that can save you. There are very few billionaires that could save you. And this is the one thing I want football fans. This is not about jealousy of City. Man United, with or without these rules, are fine. We have enough money to spend. I don't care that other people have money. I have never bemoaned another club spending money. What I find disgusting from football fans is this approach of pulling up the ladder and saying, I'm okay, Jack. Yes, Newcastle's owners might not do it to them. City's owners may never do it to them. But there might be 5, 6, 7 other clubs who go out of business because their owners are allowed to run up debts and spend money without major checks and balances. And in my opinion, that cannot be allowed. We cannot lose sight of why these rules come in and be fed into conspiracy theory bullshit. Football clubs nearly went out of existence that have been around for 100+ years because ridiculous owners came into football and took over. We have to control, we almost have to protect football clubs and the fans from themselves. Because I remember my brothers as Orient fans, they got this billionaire came in that said Champions League football in 5 years. They're a League One team. They went out and signed championship players. They signed Jay Simpson, who used to be at Arsenal, 25 grand a week. That was almost what their main 11 would pay collectively up until that point. Signing championship players, spending all this money. 18 months later, he said, I don't want to do this anymore. And then he got rid of all those players out on loan, sold all the first team players, and made the manager play the youth team and got them relegated consecutively, and they nearly went out of business. So from my point of view, and yes, I'm rattled about this sort of thing because I care about the pyramid of football in England. I know for some people it's all about the Premier League and your club, but football is an integral part of the culture of my country, the culture of Spain, the culture of Italy, Portugal. And I'm sure it's the same in many other parts of the world. And I think we have to protect it and ensure that it's safeguarded, sometimes from itself. Because sometimes in the pursuit of greatness, we can mess up and we need people to stop us. So I will be honest with you. If City win this court case and these rules go, it's not about City winning and spending more money, because if we're allowed to do associated sponsorship, great. Do you know how much more money Ineos could pump into Man United? They're worth tens of billions of pounds. I'm happy with it. I am concerned about the poor buggers that get, and I won't name the club because everyone will get offended, but a billionaire owner comes in next week, plows in £1 billion, runs up huge debts in wages, and then pulls his money out, and they are fucked. Then there'll be a lot of tears, and what you'll get is, where's the Premier League? Where's the authorities protecting and stopping this? And that's what happened. It's always after the fact that we care. So for me, I'm very passionate about this. If City win, if the club's backing them win, there has to be checks and balances. Sorry to rant, boys, but it frustrates me. We've nearly seen out of business, and people just don't seem to care about it. It's mad to me.
A lot of those issues that you talked about in the past probably would have been prevented with the fit and proper owner test that they now have, that they didn't have, that we've seen 777 have to go through, and all the hurdles and obstacles they've had to do. With our situation, obviously, that the Icelandic banking situation, it just crashed. Freak situation that happened with us. They were doing some madness by just paying bang average players really high wages, but the reason why we were fucked is because the Icelandic banking crash. But I look at it and I think surely there.
But a question on that, and I hear you. It's not always the owner's fault as well. So the point is, though, imagine if it was 2024 and the debt because of your wages and then the tax because of what they've pumped in was 400 million. There's a massive possibility you go out of business, that you never see West Ham play again. Surely
the solution has to be some sort of thing of like, okay, you want to pump in your money into this club, by all means do it, but you cannot write it as debt. Like, you cannot be a debtor to your club. You have to donate to, really donate it to the club. Like, so yeah, you want to give 100 million to the club, that has to be written off. You can't sit there and have that as a debt. That needs to be some sort of system in place. So if for some reason that owner decided, yeah, I'm done, I'm not interested, and they've pumped in 500 mil, well, that's it. The club don't owe you nothing. It don't owe anyone nothing. You're not allowed to put a club into debt, which is very interesting because Man United have been a club. Last time, I don't know how the debt has changed, but last time I checked, the debt was like nearly £1 billion, right? The last time I actually looked at the figures, I don't know if it's come down or what. And they've been a club that, despite being nearly £1 billion in debt, have been allowed to spend nearly £1 billion. So where do we look at it that? Like, you're allowed to be so much in debt, what, just because we value the club at way more than £1 billion? That has to be
I agree. The debt should be looked at. Also, what you've got to look at is it isn't just debt as in borrowed money. So every player that's on a contract essentially is a debt to the club, because the club is a secured creditor to that player. So if you, and this is what I mean by the money we're talking about these days. Let's just say a billionaire buys Everton tomorrow. A billionaire who's worth 50 billion and says, I'm going to make this the best team in the world. And he phones up Mbappe, says, I'm buying you out your Real Madrid contract and I'm paying you £10 million a week. That's £520 million of debt for 5 years that he has just created. That's £2.5 billion of debt now that they now have. Say he does that to 5 or 6 players and they have a 5 years worth of debt that is at 3.5–4 billion. Now, I agree. If the owners all say, we'll put all that into a bond somewhere, so if I die, it's all taken care of, great. Yeah. But I can almost guarantee you now that only a small percentage of the owners will agree to do that, because that is how these wealthy people work. They don't even like to use their own money half the time, no matter where they're from. The problem you then have with an owner like that, say the country he's in gets sanctioned. Say a lot of his money is tied up in stocks and shares and there's a collapse and the money falls away. Who the hell is going to save Everton from a 2, 3, 4 billion pound debt of contracts that erode? No one. They essentially, and that's the point. I don't think you're wrong, but no one challenges these owners on that. No one said, well, you can spend more, but pump more money in. These owners don't want to do it. History shows us the vast majority, not Roman, not the Sheikh, but the vast majority leave their clubs high and dry, sell the debt for a low amount of money to a new buyer and move on. The problem, none of them pay it off. We've just seen it with Rangers. A billionaire buys them, 70 million quid it would have taken to save that club. Didn't do it.
Do you remember when we got sanctioned for third-party ownership of Tevez and Mascherano,
yes,
right? Because that
weren't kicked out the league.
So we got 20 million we had to pay to Sheffield United, all the good that done them. But, if you look at it, surely then, and what you're saying is right, yeah, because the contracts are a different thing. If an owner owns the club, surely then we can look at it and go, okay, the contract for the player is to the owner. So say Ineos or the Glazers, whatever, I don't know what the percentage makeup is. So you know, they sign a new player coming in. Say you signed Haaland. Well, that contract to be paid is, you know, against the ownership to Ineos the Glaziers. And if they leave, they still have to honor that contract.
So I don't think that's how it's done, though, Lawless. The
No, it's not. What I'm talking about is
you're saying it should. Is that what you're saying?
The problem that you have is if you look at how most billionaires even get their cash is they get it through debt. Most of them borrow the money. Like, this is the thing, the way rich people actually operate. It isn't like you and me with their money in our bank account. We go and take some cash and pay it. It's all done with debt, and they lumber the debt against certain things and certain assets. And I'm all for what you're saying, but I would wager, I put £1,000 bet down now that if the owners of the clubs, if the Premier League said that's what we're going to do, you got to vote for it. I bet you get a voting of like 18-2 in favor of not doing it, because these owners, most of them will not want to put the financial liability against themselves, no matter how rich they are. How do we know this? Because through the history of football, when it was wealthy people, the millionaires, the multimillionaires and billionaires owning clubs, it has followed the same suit. The only difference being is clubs didn't go out of business many, many years ago because there was a lot more wealthy people around than there are billionaires. The problem you've now got is there's no one richer to buy these clubs if it goes wrong. So you have to have these restraints. And I feel like too many football fans are selfish, and it's almost like once the horse is bolted, it's bolted. And if we allow this to happen, we'll never get it's going to a level of spending nobody predicted. No one ever felt that football would have this much money coming into it. And I worry about it genuinely. I really do. Halls, one of our members here, says, Terry, continue to beat the drum, mate. Fans only care about their own club. They do. And this is the irony. I'm not worried about Man United financially. You know, we're still one of the wealthiest clubs in the world after being crap for a decade. One day we'll be good again. We're always going to have money, and I'm always going to support my football club. We are fine, at least for the next 50, 60 years. I worry about the poor sods who get an owner and go, oh, we're going to be up there with you, and it doesn't work out. And I say this to a lot of Newcastle fans that are desperate for their owners to spend whatever they want. If it happens, I actually wish you all the best. But if it happens due to your wish and in 5 years you don't exist anymore, if I hear one fan cry who said, let us spend what we want, I'm not having it, because people are asking. They're asking for this. They're almost letting the wolf to the door. I'm not saying you've got bad owners. We've already established that things can happen outside of their control. Things can happen. The world is a mad place. Be careful. But viewers, let us know what you think. Let us know what you feel in the comments section below. Could City, if they win this case, could it lead to the end of the Premier League? I want to get your views. I want to get your opinion. Could it damage a lot of clubs?
So when you say the end of the Premier League, Terry, I just want to ask you specifically. Like, obviously, you're not meaning we ain't got no Premier League to watch and it's going to go bust.
No, I do mean that.
Oh, wow.
Well, because this opens up a can of worms as well. Man United and Liverpool got refused extra TV money over everybody else because we get all the views 10 years ago through this same democratic process. That could now be deemed as anti-competition laws. If City win it, they could sue for that. How many clubs are going to start suing now for money? And not the clubs and the fans, the owners, who a lot of them care, especially the owners who are owned by, the clubs that are owned by hedge funds and investment companies. I worry about the knock-on effect of this situation. If City lose, well, they've set the precedent of suing each other now. Could somebody sue them? If the 115 gets proven, who's going to sue them? Could you sue other clubs? The problem that you now have is that you're opening up a can of worms that I'm worried, and I am looking at worst-case scenario. I am, but it's because I love this game so much. And I think if we bury our heads in the sand and pretend that nothing bad's going to happen, it's like we all think the Premier League's here forever. There's probably been a lot of sports and, TV shows and record labels that felt that, and stuff can go wrong. I genuinely worry. I really, really do. I
think
worry.
City need to get punished for this. I'm not going to lie to you. If they lose this case, they need to get punished for this. And I don't know what the punishment is before anyone says anything crazy and say jealousy, this and that. But I think they need to get punished for this. And you need to make, I would say, set a statement out of them. I'm not going to lie to you.
Can you make a sporting punishment for something that happened outside of the sporting realm? If they're suing an organization,
of course,
and they don't win that case, say points deduction. Well, it's nothing to do with the sport. It's it's the owners of Man City suing an organization, so you can't make a sporting punishment off of something that hasn't happened in the sporting capacity.
No, so first of all, isn't it Man City suing the Premier League, not Sheikh Mansour and their hedge fund?
Yes, Manchester City suing the Premier League and suing them for damages. Yes.
So that makes a huge difference right there, because you're not talking about the owners. You're talking about the club as an entity suing the league as an entity, not individuals between both. So you could. Number two, also, we've seen the likes of Forest and Everton pay penalties in point deductions for profit sustainability issues, which is financial. So it's not like they violated something in terms of the game. They violated something in terms of
Yeah,
financial.
because it gave at the end of the day, they got an unfair advantage, didn't they, by circumventing those rules?
Okay, but
What-
that's still financials.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
So both of them are
there's so much in it. I don't know if they'll punish them, but they obviously can be countersued.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So and that may, I mean, again, it's all going to depend on what I find really interesting. Again, one of the funniest bits for me is they're moaning about the voting process that they take part in 3 or 4 times a year and voting every single time.
This is what I wanted to state there, but you know, this is what reminds me of. I see, and I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen because logistically it's very difficult, but City, I believe Chelsea and one other club backed them so far on this case that they're in. So hypothetically, think about this. This is very similar to the Super League. What if City lose this case and Chelsea now were bothered by them and another club? I don't know who. Let's just say a couple clubs support him. What guarantees me that City and Chelsea are not going to sit there and be like, you know what, F the Premier League. Let's go start a league with our own rules. That's going to be better. That's going to benefit us all financially. I'm not saying this is going to happen because logistically it's very complicated for it to work. But you just there's a possibility of something like that starting.
In the reports in the Times, these are some of the sorts of mooted conversations that are going about that City could break away and try and reform the Super League. I would say it depends who joins them, because if it's City and Chelsea, that is not getting more views than a league with Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool.
But it's the concept, Terry. It's the concept, because they could easily go. All these billionaires, let's be honest, all these billionaires at the end of the day, they're actually friends with each other. So the Glazers are friends with FSG. They're friends with the Kroenkes. I know they all look like Corazza in terms of club, but at the end of the day, billionaires are all friends.
Yeah, because there's not many of them.
So what? There isn't many of them. That's what makes it such a rare thing. What guarantees me that Todd Bowley, after this happens, doesn't ring up Kroenke as an example? And he's like, listen, I've been talking with the Emiratis running City, and they're proposing this idea now is going to give us this amount of money, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to be able to prosper more, and we're going to be able to create our version of the Super League. I'm not saying it will happen, but there's no reason why it can't happen.
But it's a great point, and that's why I say, like, both this case and the 115, if it goes right, it depends how you look at right and wrong, or good or bad. But it could be the end of the Premier League, or at least
the Premier League made this problem, though, Terry. It's their fault. They made this monster. When they created the Premier League and the Sky deal, they turned football into what it is.
They did. So where I would say they're responsible is that they didn't have enough checks and balances in early enough. But whether it's their fault or not, whether it's, we're only going to know in years to come. If there's a breakaway league and it ends up being better, more competitive, billionaire owned, everyone going crazy, all the best players go there, and we might all look at it in 10 years and go, bloody hell, they were right. You could also get to a point, and this is what I would make the rules up, though. I would say once you leave forever, and they might leave, and then in 5 to 10 years time, that it literally is like watching the Saudi league, and no one watches it. There's no TV viewing figures, and it wouldn't just be about them leaving. It'd be about what UEFA and FIFA do, and then what the clubs within UEFA and FIFA end up doing, and who joins them. But it could happen. It really could happen. It really could. So, and listen, I don't necessarily think the Premier League was a breakaway league initially, and that's turned out to be very, very good. This could work out, and City could do it. Like it said, Maradon here says, didn't United push for the era? I'm not too sure who was pushing for it, to be fair, but like I've said, I'm not saying who's right or wrong in that. Which one's going to be the right? It's going to be a bit like what Man United do with the manager. I don't think we're going to know in the short term. It's going to be a medium to long term situation if that was to happen. Super chat here says Saudi could easily form another league. They could. I mean, they wouldn't be able to run it in England without the FA's permission, and I don't think the FA would. Well, again, depends how much money's offered. If the Saudis say, "Listen, to the FA, we'll give you £1 trillion," which they could probably afford to do like that, it's done.
How would a breakaway league do without? Could it be successful without being in England? Like if Man United were in another league, playing in Saudi or whatever, would you still feel as connected, as passionate? Would it Do you think it would still be as big?
I feel, do you know what? It's a weird one. I probably wouldn't because I mean, I'm not at the games anymore because I do this for a job, but football it's here, it's in England, it's at home. I don't feel as connected to, I love the Champions League as an example, but it's different when I watch an English team play at home versus them play away. And I'm sure when a Spanish guy watches Real Madrid or Barca at home, it maybe have a slight different feeling to watching. There's a different special feeling to watching that. But there's some history to that. I've watched some of the Saudi League. I don't feel much for it. If my club was in it, maybe. It's hard to know until you're there, but I don't know if it would feel the same. I feel like but again, you got someone like Staffy, lives in America. I suppose it wouldn't really matter whether they were playing at Old Trafford or playing in a stadium in Saudi. Or
United, not in Manchester. You might have to.
That was Salford anyway. Yeah, true.
I already made that joke.
Maybe. I think it all depends on who you are, where you're from. I mean, one thing I think would be different is I don't think the crowds would sound the same. And I think that the noise that crowds make in England, Spain, Italy, I think in France, I think there's an element of that which
we saw it in COVID.
Yeah, it's a subtle element that I think people don't realize. It's part of the reason they like the sport as well. And if that suddenly disappeared and it sounded like Soccer Aid, that would have a huge impact as well. So I don't know if I would like it as much. Staffy makes a great point, but can they do it without fans? I mean, their fans are global
fans. Yeah, there's a lot of global fans, anyways. And you gotta understand, there's always new generation of fans coming up. So, like the generation of City fans in the past 10 years are not the same generation of fans that are like the same age group as Daps, as an example, or Big Steve. So, clubs always make fans. I'm not gonna lie to you. It won't be the same. Don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying it. I would
love to ask City and Newcastle fans that are back in their club. If this new league happened, but it wasn't in England, it was in another country, would you still back it?
It would be horrible. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't even like it. You know, I'll tell you this, Claire, because I grew up overseas. Obviously, I didn't grow up in England. I started watching United when I was in Egypt. Okay, I was a kid in Egypt when I first discovered the Premier League, and I chose to be a United fan. Growing up, one of my dreams, I said one day when I'm old enough and I have enough money, I will go to Old Trafford. This was me thinking as a 12-year-old kid. The first thing I did after I graduated college and I got my first job was fly to Old Trafford and watch a game. To me, that was a dream I had as a kid. That wouldn't have been possible if United was playing in the US. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, oh yeah, let me just drive 30 minutes. I'm gonna go watch. I'm guaranteed I'm gonna see him. It doesn't hit the same. A part of us as international fans, why we love the Premier League, because it's very cultured and it's something out of our culture. So it kind of made you like gravitate to it more. Because we have
true.
A lot of sports
I mean it respectfully to Americans. If suddenly you were watching Man United play and the chants were Sesko United, Sesko.
I wouldn't go to the game.
But I don't think American fans would enjoy it. I think one of the reasons why I like hockey a little bit more, but I like hockey in the NFL is because it doesn't look like English sport. It looks different. It's one of the reasons why it's not gatekeeping. I don't want the English and European sports to do what the Americans do, because I love the difference. And I've said this before backstage many times, but I was very lucky when I was younger. I competed for Team GB and I got to meet other people from America, Canada, South Africa, Australia, all different European countries. And do you know what was amazing? You turn up. When everyone was in tracksuits, you could tell where people were from. But even when everyone was in their civvies, in their normal clothes, you could kind of tell where people were from. You could tell the American guys, the Italians. This is before skinny jeans were popular in England. You could always tell the Italian lads. You could tell the Germans looked a certain way. The Swedish team were very, very easy to notice. You had all these blonde women just walked into the room. All these blonde guys, they're from Sweden or Denmark. But everybody dressed a little different. Everyone had a different feel to them. I feel like nowadays, when you think about the way people dress, the music we listen to, haircuts, it's all very same across the world. No offense, Dan. Like it's very same, like right across the world, right? And that's what I still love about American sport and European sport. There's a fundamental difference. And I think that needs to be kept. Someone sent me a DM a second ago, though, saying that a breakaway league can't be made. The Premier League teams, when they decided to not go into the Super League, they signed in their deal that they would never create another breakaway league again. So I don't think they can do it, according to this.
There's no time period of like 10 years, 20. It's just never. Like, that's it. Which is interesting because most deals aren't indefinite.
Yeah, I suppose the only way you could get out of that is by shutting Manchester City down and Manchester City Newco, and they're officially a new club, and that's probably the only way you could do it, I suppose. But there we go. Viewers, let us know what you think and feel. We're going to do some more super chats in a minute, so we'll come back to them. But Álvarez to Chelsea. It is on. It is active. Chelsea will be sending in a proposal, Staffy, to the player first in the coming days to try and prize him away from Manchester City. Can you see Chelsea? You've already signed Tosin, who have no more financial issues. Can you see them bringing this player in?
I can see them bring this player in. Are we talking about it in a financial way or a tactical way, how they fit the team? I'm assuming we're talking about
as in the player picking them and a tactical way, yes.
Okay, so player picking them. I mean, listen, if there's one team that you always back to pull off a signing, it's probably Chelsea. I feel like Chelsea, out of all of our clubs, definitely not yours, Dan. So, Lawless, sorry. But with the big six, traditional big six, I should say, no one I think I would say has been in more hijacks / bidding wars that they've won more than them. I can't really think of any. You know, so if anyone is renowned for pulling off a signing that you didn't expect or a difficult signing, it's probably Chelsea. So there's no reason why I don't think they could do it. Does he fit this Chelsea team? I mean, there's good reasons why this signing should happen for Chelsea fans. Number one, they need a striker. I think he's a good striker, don't get me wrong. I feel like for any other team, he'd be starting if he didn't have Haaland in front of him. So it's not a bad thing that he's on the bench right now. He's benched to a much superior goal scorer, I should say. But we've seen him for Argentina, especially in the World Cup, be very good. I think he's a very good striker. He has a good strike of the ball. His movement is decent, all that stuff. So he would be a good signing for anyone. When I look at what Chelsea need, Chelsea definitely need a striker. So that checks that box. He's worked with Maresca in that treble-winning season that they had because he was a part of the coaching staff with Pep. So he already knows the player. Maresca plays a style of play that's similar to Pep's because he's from the same school as Pep. So stylistically, Álvarez coming into that team would develop easily because even Cole Palmer is there, who is from the City Academy, and he's played with him in that treble-winning season. So he kind of knows him as well. So I think stylistically, he would fit what Maresca's trying to do over there. The thing about it is, for me, I feel like I don't look at him and I feel like he's going to be that standout number 9 that starts for Chelsea. I look at the team that they're trying to build, even though stylistically, as I said, it fits. I don't like the profile of player he is compared to what they already have. So for an example, and this is going to sound very basic, but sometimes you need to talk about basic stuff. That whole front line, that whole midfield is way too short. That's such a small squad. It reminds me of that Barca team back in 2009. It was such a short team where I look at it, I'm like, it's a whole squad of small players. Imagine your front line is Cole Palmer. Actually, Cole Palmer will play in the team. So imagine your front line is Nkunku, Álvarez, whoever plays on the right, and then you look at the midfield and you got Caicedo, Enzo, and I don't know who else. Let's just say Gallagher. I don't know. That's the midfield that we play. I don't look at this team and I'm like, you know what? They're very strong. They're very tall. Like, I feel like they need to go for another profile of striker, which is what's his name? Sesko. Ideally, you should get both, but I kind of like the Sesko signing more for them. Because Sesko, they've been recruiting for about 2 years now. So if you were recruiting Sesko for 2 years, why are you going for an Álvarez? Because they're not similar profiles at all. They're not the same type of player. They're not similar profile. Their statures are not the same. So I just look at it. I'm like, are you just signing him because he's available, or are you signing him because he's what you need? So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad signing, but it's not. I don't think of it as a great signing. I could be wrong.
But yeah, I think it's a
Wait. Did
great
Ten Hag just
signing.
get sacked?
Who?
Did Ten Hag just get sacked?
Did he? We got breaking news.
Wait, hold on. Let me see something.
Hang on.
That's no.
The chat would normally be popping.
Yeah, no one in the chat is talking about it.
It's not been put on Twitter.
Oh, bro. Never
Staffy
mind.
just got so excited.
No, I just saw a tweet. But never mind. Never mind.
Look at it. Come on, but
No, someone baited. Basically, they're saying Greenwood is gone, but they didn't say Greenwood. They just
Right.
They just baited.
Right.
Anyways.
Could be worse. You could have signed Southgate. See, that's how it works.
I just saw that. I was like, wait, did we just get breaking news?
You know that meme of DT where he's celebrating and then he stops? That's how some United fans are going to feel when it goes from like, Ten Hag said, yeah, Southgate's in. Yeah, there's going to be some that we will. Yeah, I hear you.
I love it.
So yeah, your opinion, Lawless, on Chelsea going for Alvarez?
Yeah, no, like honestly, he's obviously a quality player. Who it'd be very interesting to see how he would do being the main man. Again, like Staffy said, there's all question marks over profiles and how they've done things in the past, and we need to see what their structure are trying to do. I don't know how much Maresca actually worked with Alvarez, because obviously Maresca was the under-21s. He was like development coach, so I don't know if Alvarez actually played there, but obviously he's got a connection with Man City, so it could be a player that he's identified that he wants. So there's no reason to shit on it, but yeah, man, I really rate Alvarez, and I said it for a position that they need, and with the current market for strikers, they could definitely do a lot worse. It all depends on the price, because I don't know how accurate this is, but I was seeing like 80 million somewhere, or 60 to 80, which I mean, for a player of that caliber, it's about fair in today's market, but it's just I don't know what Chelsea's budget is. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what their situation. If they've just sold those hotels and now they can spend what they want, or if they are restricted.
It's an interesting. I get what you're saying about Sesko. The problem one caveat and to defend Chelsea here, Staffy, is maybe he's going Arsenal, so they have to have a different option.
Well, I don't know that. That's why I said that. I said,
but then equally, I do get your point that he's not a similar profile. I think about Nkunku still at the club. You think there's talk that they're going to go to a sort of a 4-3-3 style, which means Palmer's going to go on the right. They're trying to sign Elise as well. So it's like, where do all these? And it's probably a good problem to have, but it's a question of where do all these players fit in, and will they all agree to join if they know each other are coming in? Because there's one thing having competition. There's also, Jesus Christ, if there's 3 or 4 people in front of you for a particular role and position, it's difficult. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave City. And the City are the best team still in the world for me. I know Madrid just won the Champions League, but I still think City are the best team in the world. However, Alvarez is excellent, and it doesn't matter how good he is. He's not starting over Haaland. He's just not starting over him. So it's a case of he's probably going to have to move if he wants regular first-team football to prove himself as one of the best in the world. And I think Alvarez sees himself as a top player, but he's nearly always on the bench or being played out of position. So I do understand it. I can genuinely understand why he would want to leave. That the problem Chelsea have is Atletico are coming in for him, who are not as big as Chelsea, but you could argue in a better position. PSG want him, who have a Mbappe-sized hole that, again, if he wants to be the first team regular, he's going to walk into that PSG team. He's kind of going to go there and win domestically like City win, kind of win everything domestically. And maybe with all the superstars gone now from PSG, wouldn't it be ironic if they won the Champions League next year with no superstars? Wouldn't it be ironic that the sort of the Galactico approach, as it were, doesn't really work? Most teams that have Galacticos, they build them, or they sign them before they're Galacticos, or they've signed one as opposed to 4 or 5. But yeah, I like him. I'll be worried. Listen, Chelsea, I don't know much about the new manager, Enzo. As I've said, I'm sitting firmly on the fence with it. I'm not going to judge him. I'm going to be objective. I watched one game where they played Chelsea, funny enough, and moved the ball really, really well. But I look at Tosin, excellent signing, great profile, great age. Somebody like Alvarez coming in. If they do get Elise, if they can make the system work early with that added pedigree to their team, they could be a real force to be reckoned with next year, Chelsea. Genuinely, I know like a lot of people want to write them off early doors because they've signed a championship manager. I'm just not. That might happen. I'm not saying they won't flop. I'm not saying it won't go wrong, but just a little gut feeling that this could really go right for them. If they get these types of players.
I'm not gonna write them off, and at the same time, I'm not. I was with Chez yesterday on the stream, and he was saying that he thinks they're gonna finish top 4, and both of these claims are just ridiculous to me, because I was like, first of all, why are we even making predictions in June? Who makes predictions in June? Predictions usually come in August, when you actually see the transfers, you see the ins, you see the outs, and you actually make a better assessment of what you see. Like, we didn't even see any preseason games. Like, at least wait for 1 or 2 preseason games to kind of have an idea of what you could see. Of what you can expect. I think Chelsea they have good enough tools to compete for top 4 next season, 100%. But as I said, we've seen them sign players sometimes like the likes of Mudryk as an example, where they just signed him based on the buzz. I still, until this day, don't believe they actually scouted him and they really wanted him. I think they just wanted him because they heard that Arsenal want him and they really rate him. They were just going by. They proved us a few times that they were just signing players because they were rated by someone else. And sometimes I don't need you to look at what someone else is doing. You need to look at what you're just doing. You're doing your own homework, which is why I'm just questioning the signing if they actually want him because he's good or because he's just available. That's the thing. Because I saw United try to get Frankie de Jong, couldn't get him, and they got Casemiro because he was made available last minute. That's to me, that screams the same signing. That's the issue with me. I want to see that this Chelsea team is actually trying to sign players that's what they need, not what they want. That is the huge difference that I'm talking about right here. You needed a Sesko. Why are you getting an Álvarez? That's the only reason I'm looking at. But as you said, I gotta give Maresca a chance. I'm not gonna judge him because he's a championship manager. I feel like a lot of managers, and I defended him on the top 6 a couple weeks ago. I said a lot of championship managers or managers that had no resume before they took on a top flight job eventually took the job and they did well. So we have to give him the same opportunity to do what others did. He's either going to sink or swim, But as of now, Chelsea have to change something before we can start trusting them because the last 2 years haven't been great. So unless they change it, we gotta raise a lot of questions about their signings.
Man City need to keep him, I think, more than anything, because that's was he had like GA of like 30 last season. And just that squad depth is massive. I know like they've been able to sell players like Jesus before and be fine, but if they're gonna go and get a 5th league title, you need that strength in depth, someone of that quality, to come in when Haaland's either injured or come off the bench or you're in all them competitions. So I think they need to do what they can to try and keep hold of him. And if he does leave, put on a huge price tag because, that sort of quality player, they're going to need that depth if they want to go for a 5th.
Yeah, they're going to want to keep him. But City, I mean, I don't know if it's probably not a written down policy, but it's almost like a sort of a gentleman's agreement. When players don't want to remain, they typically let them go, though. And you don't want players in what I think is a bigger hindrance is players that want to leave. And a lot of the early reports from Argentina are that he's happy to stay at City, but he's open to leaving. And I always find that's a very coded way of saying he's looking to leave if the right offer comes in. But it's also a way that protects him if he stays. So, well, no, I always wanted to be here. It was just these offers came in. And I think if he's given his PSG, if Chelsea make him really good offers financially, really good bonuses, really good agent fees, but also say, look, this is our project. This is where you're going to fit in it. You're going to be the main man here. That main man element is, and if his head's turned and his head goes and he walks into the office and says to Pep and co, look, I've loved being here, but I really want to go. Their general rule is to say, well, we don't want you here either because your head's been turned elsewhere. So, but I do agree with you. I think he's
what price tag do you think is fair, Terry? I have interest because, I mean, World Cup winner, obviously treble winner.
He's valued at 90 million euros. What? So his valuation is 90 million euros, which is around 76 million pounds. It then depends on how many clubs offer him a contract he likes. Because if he suddenly says, I love the Atty offer. PSG is great. Chelsea, that's amazing. If they can, again, the one thing that could serve City well is helping to create a bidding war. Because you've got to be looking at 75 to 80 million minimum for this kid. He's brilliant for me. I think he's a really talented player. It will hurt City losing him, but he's going to cost a pretty penny. And again, interestingly, if this court case don't go the way City want, and maybe it turns out that some of these sponsorship deals they shouldn't be having, devil's advocate, maybe they do need to sell a little bit. Maybe they need to raise some money. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm just throwing that out there. They could be maybe forced into this as an example. But yeah, look, 76 million pound. That's his current valuation. Chelsea are going to have to pay at least his valuation and maybe even pay a little bit of prem tax. Maybe a little bit of prem tax on there as well.
He's not worth 90 million.
But we know no player gets sold for what they're worth realistically. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If he's 90 million, just go back to Sesko. Sesko's half the price and you've been recruiting him. Sorry, I'm not paying 90 million.
Do you think Sesko's better than him, Staffy? From what you've seen?
It's not necessarily that he's better. He's just he brings a different element. Like I would rather have Sesko and Nkunku in my front line that bring different attributes than to have someone who's because Nkunku and Alvarez are more similar than Sesko and Alvarez. So if you already have Nkunku and you need to shoehorn him into the team next year because you're making all these signings anyways, you're trying to get Olise as well. So you're going to put Palmer in the 10, which means Nkunku can only play on the left or the front line. I'd rather have him and Sesko than to have him and Alvarez, especially for that
How much
price.
is Sesko?
He's like 45 to 50.
Still, it's a bit of a risk though. Like unproven.
Is it a risk when you've been scouting him for years now?
Well,
You
yeah,
already
of
know
course.
he's-
Like you can scout, you can go. Do you know what? Yeah, okay, yeah. The profile of the player, he's got these attributes, these strengths. Yeah, he scored some goals, but you bring him, into the intensity of the Premier League, into the pressure of one of the top clubs in the league. It's different. We've seen it time and time again. You know what I mean? We've had the Werners and the Havertz for Chelsea and things like that. Sesko could easily be another one of them.
Well, there's a risk that anyone ever flops when they go to a different team. So I get that 100%.
Yeah, but there's different. If you take someone that has been a great commodity, obviously not just great internationally, but great at the highest level in your league for the best team, I think the risk is less. I think in terms of forget the money, but in terms of a player that is going to be good, forget profile, just can do the job, is a good player. I think Alvarez is less of a risk than Sesko. That's what I'm saying.
In terms of being in the Premier League and doing it before, yeah, I hear it by that
and multiple seasons as well. Because how many seasons can you say that Sesko's put performance after performance?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And Sesko's younger, anyways. I understand there's an element of risk, but that's why also one of them is half the price of the other one. One of them is half the price. That's what I'm trying to say. And Nkunku's a little bit on the experience side. So you got one that's not experienced and one that's more experienced. I don't know. I'm just looking at it stylistically and profile wise. I would rather get, if I was Chelsea, I'd rather get Sesko. I just think he gives him a different element.
Project youth though, or like start to shift away. Like keep some of the young players, but I don't think they need to put young players on top of young players and continue down.
I mean, Alvarez is pretty young too, anyways.
No, but I think he's more experienced at the highest level. You can look at young, like Saka. He's young, but you're not looking at him in the same way as a player that's 21 years old that's played in Austrian leagues and German leagues and them leagues. He's played at the highest level for his country, for his club, Champions League, Cup finals, all sorts of stuff. So
let me ask you this: when we talk about experience, what parts of the pitch do they need experience in? Because I think they need an experienced goalkeeper, as an example. I feel like no one should usually ever go for young goalkeepers. That's the one position that you don't want a kid in. So you usually get experienced goalkeepers. That's fine. They just signed Tosin Adarbayo, who's 27, 28, something like that, and he's been playing in the Premier League, so he got Premier League experience. So that's one more position there. Why not go for a young striker? I understand that you would prefer.
That's one of their biggest gaps, though. That's one of their biggest.
But maybe they are looking at it the other way, though. They're saying, look, Tosin's got the EPL experience and age. Alvarez is young, but got that experience. And it's almost if they add 3 or 4 players that are from the Premier League that are still, at the peak or coming into their peak, it could help. I think it's an interesting one. I think the Sesko one as well is just who else is involved? Do they feel they can win him? Because if they feel like he's going to go Arsenal, then they have to start looking elsewhere. Another Arsenal story that sort of keeps coming up is Newcastle were adamant they're not going to sell him. But there's also a lot of reports they've got to sell players, they've got PSR issues, etc., etc. Could any of you see Arsenal going back in for Isak, or do you think this is one that is just too far away from Arsenal to get?
I don't know why Arsenal fans want him to be sold on a cheap. Newcastle signed him for 70 million, by the way. I feel like a lot of people don't know that. They paid 70 million for him. So when they asked for 100 plus, margin-wise, that's a decent profit. Because I heard people saying, no, he's only worth 80 to 90. Like, there's no way they bought him, gave him 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons, got all these goals, and they're going to only sell him for 10 to 20 million more. Like, it just logically doesn't make sense. They'd rather keep him than to just sell him for such a small margin. So I think Isak would be an ideal signing for them. They're just going to have to pay a lot for it. And if they're ambitious and they want to win the Premier League next season, he's a very good signing, and it would be a step in the correct way. But I think you're gonna have to break the bank for him. I'm not gonna lie. You paid 100 mil for Rice. You're gonna have to pay something closer to 150. I don't think he's worth 200. I understand Newcastle quoted him at that. Usually sellers quote their stuff at a higher value than it is because they know someone's gonna try to haggle them anyways and negotiate. They're not just and no one is gonna just say, "Oh, 200 mil, okay, we accept it." It's not FIFA. It doesn't work like that. They'll negotiate, but they'll probably bring it down to 150. But I think that's the price that he will actually go at if they try to get him. And I
Well, I
understand
think
why
the PSR thing, I think the deadline for them having to sell players by the 31st, I think it does weaken their hand. And this is why I was speaking to a Newcastle fan about this because when it comes to selling players, because he's saying, well, we got a lot of players that there's interest in that we want to get rid of. But if you're a club and you're the buying club and you know they're under pressure to sell players by the 31st of June, that's their deadline to sell, not your deadline to buy, then you're relaxed. You're sitting there going, look, we want to buy this player, but we ain't paying no 200 mil. We ain't paying no 150 mil. We'll give you
I agree. And I think that's why there's been very little transfer activity so far, very little, because there's 5 or 6 teams in the Prem that have got these issues. I'm sure there's multiple across Europe that have these issues. And I think there's a lot of people just, it's always slower in a year where there's international football because a lot of the players are also away or with the nations already around the world. But I also think that that's playing a part in it because clubs are waiting. Even if you're like a Newcastle when you want to spend, it's by the 31st of June. So you're not going to spend. You're definitely not going to buy anybody before the 31st of June because that's going to mean you've got to sell even more. So. And then
people are saying that Sky deleted the tweet, but that was because of the Chelsea thing, right? They retracted, so the other clubs.
So they've retracted the bit about Chelsea needing to sell.
So as of now, fans don't get too relaxed. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Super chat here says we need to also get another other spots and very good players in those spots. It's the only reason I'm hesitant about breaking the bank on Isak.
I agree with you.
That's true, and that's actually, why I think. Yeah,
I have actually an opposite opinion on this. Not with Tevin, the whole striker thing. I've thought about this a lot. I actually don't think Arsenal need a striker. I'm gonna be very honest with you. It would be nice to sign a striker. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's their main priority. Because I really thought about this. I heard all the arguments that Arsenal fans has given me. They told me stuff like, "Oh, but we need someone to help us, as an example, get over the line versus Bayern or Porto in the Champions League." Really, when we watch these games, they didn't have a finishing issue. They had a creation issue. They weren't creating chances. So it wasn't a day where like no one looked at that loss to Bayern. And they were like, if they had a better striker, he would have finished these chances. They just weren't good enough on the day. I actually don't think they need a striker. I think it's an easy cop out to why how they could win the league next year because they don't rate Nketiah, they don't rate Jesus, and they don't rate Havertz. I hear that. But when I look at a team that scored 91 goals in the league, I'm sorry to not think that you need more goals. I understand that that's not how football works. Sometimes you just need a different dynamic going into next season because we've seen Martinelli as an example drop off. Saka, I don't think he had as many goals as the year before. Neither did Odegaard, but people like Havertz chipped in with goals. People like Rice chipped in with goals. Trossard, obviously. So that helped out. I don't think they need a striker. I don't think they need to sign anyone for that much money. I think they need to actually reinvest in that midfield and a left wing.
Yeah,
I really stand on that when I think that's the two priorities that they need. Because Martinelli is not good enough. Hear me on this, Terry, and I don't want it to happen because he plays for us. Rashford links is not a bad thing. I heard a lot of people say keep him away from my club. If
he would kill it at Arsenal.
If Rashford goes to Arsenal, I promise you that's at least 15 goals. 15 goals.
I hear you on that. Final few super chats here before the end of the show. Terry, why aren't Chelsea getting Victor Osimhen? Listen, I don't know, but no one seems to want to buy him. So there's something in that for me, whether it's he's being priced out or maybe he's not as good. I don't know. Staffy dissing Bowley, but he's wearing the cap of the Dodgers that he owns. I believe cheating and lying are anathema to sport. So I hope City get their dues. Thank you, bro.
Let me ask him something on that super chat, so hopefully he can respond. Because probably his intelligence is not that high. In what part did I diss Bowley? Because I said there's a potential that if City fall out with the league and Chelsea back City, they might try to create another Super League. Was that a diss?
I didn't see it as a diss myself, but there we go. If Chelsea get Elise and Alvarez, I like the attacking options with Palmer being more of an advanced 8. I also see Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo rotating a lot. Well, about to say, if you're going to put the Palmer back into the middle, then who misses out in that group? That's an interesting one. One issue with Southgate is moving from international football to club football. The day-to-day of club football is vastly different. It's usually the opposite. I hear you on that. That's a great point there, Patrick. So plunging in cash debt-free, the Premier League will just be state-owned clubs at the top, and you'll get the hyperinflation in 15 years are on 200k a week, have never played a professional game. It's true. There is that true. The irony is as well, if you just allow endless spending and the richest owners, all you're going to do, and this is the way the world, it'll be a little bit like Animal Farm. If anyone's read the book, you'll have the clubs that are smaller that have richer owners. In 5 to 10 years' time, they'll have the monopoly in the same way they're moaning about now. So the irony in it is, if you really want to create inequality, what we actually have to all vote for is spending and wage cap so that no one can spend any more than anybody else. That's the only way you actually truly create it. But nobody really wants the equality. What they want is what's best for my club as a general rule. Market equals to make profit. States, clubs care about soft power and don't care about being profitable. Huge markets, imperfection, and the market collapses is what John Edwards says here. Thank you, mate. Only problem I have with Rashford is his attitude. He hasn't got a bad attitude. You've got, I don't know. Again, I don't know where you get your Man United news from. Rashford doesn't have a bad attitude per se.
He had a drink.
He's done some. Yeah, having a drink doesn't mean you got a bad attitude. Bowley is a bad owner. I wish Roman was still here. A lot of Chelsea fans will agree with that. 110%. Josh, I did say that today. The Chelsea boys were giving me shit in the group chat saying, Terry, you said we had financial issues. You did. I never said you couldn't get out of them, but you did have financial issues. I think you've done a great job of getting out of it. But my view is this. If I have to sell my car and my clothes this month to pay my mortgage and bills, that is not a genius financial move or a flex. That is well done for solving the problem short term. But Chelsea must start winning now. They must get back into the Champions League. If you keep spending the way you are, all these financial holes will reappear. Terry, look at his body language. That's somebody that's not happy. That doesn't mean he's got a bad attitude. Being unhappy and having a bad attitude are not the same thing, Matt. Rashford is not a bad egg. He truly isn't, in my personal opinion. Drop the Arsenal lens, my friend. Listen, until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. Staffy, Lawless, always a pleasure to speak football with you. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.
Can I go?